ICT governance came back as being an item to be discussed within the top management, mainly for two reasons. The first one is that we had to move from mainly a remote activity, and currently we are facing in many countries a way back to both physical and remote activities. And in this context, we had to ensure that everything that was set up in emergency to cope with the situation in which we were is now becoming what is so-called the new normal. So I haven't heard anybody saying that they will be back completely physically in their premises, and there are still a lot of countries which are under serious threats with the COVID-19 pandemic situation. But for the ones who are still having a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, the remote activities have been maintained mainly between, let's say, 1 day per week to 3 days per week. So there are still quite some activities that will be performed outside. There will never be a back to the normal situation. That's what we call the new normal. And during this phase, there's been a huge appetite for digitalization, and it will not stop. We have seen that if we cannot go to the premises, we have still to manipulate some objects such as papers or various kind of objects we need to have for the work, cards for votings, and we need to digitalize a certain number of domains. And while people were previously quite blocked, saying some processes could not be done absolutely with the digital tools or in a digital manner, then discovered suddenly that it was possible. Then it has opened a world full of opportunities for which very few processes will remain undigitalized. I will mainly address this new question about ICT governance around 4 domains. I start with agility, and agility is something that we all had to experience. This goes from increasing the time or reducing the time to deliver IT solutions to not only staff, but also from members. People are not ready to wait for days and days, or I would say even weeks. We tend to be quite slow in the administration to deliver a solution. We are talking about months, many year and a half to deliver solution. There was no question about that. It was supposed to be performed in weeks maximum, because everybody needed to ensure the business continuity of the activities and make sure that the democracy was not shut down by the situation. So we had to work quite hard. And this has included to improve one of the points we had to deal with, which is IT demand request management. So when you have a lot of requests to satisfy in IT, you put an IT portfolio process. So you want to manage several projects at the same time in parallel. But under these conditions, there was quite some, and there's a lot of improvement that have been done in terms of how to handle these IT requests. So either you need to perform a huge business case, either you need to perform large studies with various products before choosing one. Very often, this was not the case. One was chosen, and then it was a go. And the main studies that were done were basically the one related to cybersecurity. But for the rest, there was a basic set of functionality, and people were endorsing these functionalities until it was really serving the most functionalities that they had to. Hybrid, we were just mentioning before, it moved to digital communities, digital workplaces, digital processes, even some that were considered to be the hardest one to be digitalized. For instance, when you talk about the financial process, very often people wanted to have a document with a manual signature. Under this context, it was extremely complex to have, and then they decided that it was authorized to have a digital signature, or a signed PDF version of an invoice could be used inside a financial process, for which some months before it was completely unthinkable to have digitalized such a process. So HR was also largely touched. How to recruit people if you cannot go to the offices, how to build a file so that the people can be recruited, how to perform the interviews. So there were a lot of domains, not only on the business side, meaning remote voting, for instance, or video conferences, but also on the support functions from the organizations that were touched by this appetite for digital functions. The third one is being intelligent, more intelligent. As I mentioned before, end users or members who are not ready to wait for weeks in order to continue to work, and they need to have solutions in a shorter time frame. And this has changed the relationship between IT and end users. So in this context, it was largely foreseen to trust maybe a little bit more end users. They were, if not provided by the IT side, finding solutions by themselves, and they were implementing it themselves. We have seen that with video conferencing solutions by which they came and they said, well, when I'm with friends at home, I'm using this one, it works perfectly, so why not using it for the business purpose? Even if it's not completely secured or compliant with some rules, with some data protection rules, it was very frequent to see people moving to this kind of tool saying, well, we are using it, it's running, I know it, so let's move for this type of thing. So it has really changed. The IT knowledge has directly, level of knowledge has grown on the user side, mainly in terms of solutions, ready to use solutions. And this has changed the relationships by saying, well, no, it's not only functionalities or functions I will describe so that you can satisfy with a tool, but I will also come and maybe I will provide one that I know that could do the job, and then for which we may make use. Of course, this points out innovation. Administration is very frequently risk adverse. So we do not like to take risk. We are not there to perform research and development. We can take solutions which are, let's say, very recent solutions or just deployed, but we largely prefer to compare different solutions, which is the one that is the most efficient for the administration. So we tend to be qualified as being followers and absolutely not leaders in terms of innovation inside administration. But in this case, again, the time to deliver and the type of solution that were checked in order to satisfy the requirements that were made to maintain the activity from the parliaments made such that innovation moved quite fast. And we had also examples that were just highlighted before by Rodolfo in terms of artificial intelligence. And these technologies that were a little bit of Star Trek side for the administration became suddenly much more visible, much more useful in terms of context to be used with the current situation. And the last one is confident and secure. First point is about cybersecurity. If you want to work digital, you have to put cybersecurity at the center. Otherwise, you may have to face really serious issues in terms of availability of your service or in terms of data loss. And this thing is sometimes hidden by saying, well, it runs, we solve the business case or the business requirements, and then we'll see later on. No, if cybersecurity has really to be the cornerstone of the enterprise architecture and really to be discussed in the domain of the ICT governance. We need to have common rules, common roles that will be known, that will be shared, that will be applied, so that we ensure the security of our system. And why doing all these things? Why thinking about all these dimensions for ICT governance? Because of business continuity. We cannot stop parliaments. And parliaments were mainly working in the presence mode. So everybody was waking up in the morning, going to the office, working end of the day back home. And this was mainly the way it was worked a little bit everywhere. And for members, they were traveling from their constituencies to come to work in the parliament premises and then going back to the constituency. This has changed, and it will never come back to the previous old days. Independently from this new situation, we need to ensure business continuity of our services and also the continuity of democracy. I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. Please don't take badly my words, but this is not the first time that we had a quite dangerous virus that was spread throughout the world. We had Ebola in '76, we had the bird flu in '97, we had the SARS in 2002, the H1N1 in 2009, and now the nCoV-19. So that's not the first time that there's a serious which is spread all over the world. This time was more violent and touches maybe more countries. but I may be sorry, but this may be not the last time. We are seeing with the climate change that there's a huge change in the permafrost, and for this time it could bring up some viruses that were frozen for quite a lot of centuries, and that may raise, including some that could be quite dangerous. So this one is the first one of its category. The impact was extreme. This has changed our business model, our way to work, but unfortunately, I really fear that this is not the last one that may come, and it not may come in 10 years as it was a period of the other one. It may come much more faster. So business continuity has to become a center point of your new governance, your new way to develop the vision for IT of the institution, so that you ensure that we will have a sufficient level of resilience to be able to cope with such situations in case it will come again. So absolutely not an unpleasant word to conclude this presentation, but please consider that that the vision related to IT governance has to change. It has to evolve. We have to be more agile, more hybrid, more intelligent, confident and secure. And we absolutely must guarantee the resilience of our organization to ensure the business continuity. Thank you very much.